This lesson is on the slope point form for the equation of a line. So the slope point form for the equation of a line is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, where m is the slope as usual, x1 and y1 is any point on the line, x is the independent variable, and y is the dependent value. So x independent variable is on the x-axis, y is on the y-axis. What is the equation of this graph in slope point form? So let's write down our slope point form, figure out what we need to plug into it. M is the slope, which is 5 over 7 in our case, a rise of 5, a run of 7, so 5 divided by 7. For x1 and y1, pick a known point on the line. One of the intercepts is typically easiest to use, but you do need to make sure you know the x and y coordinates of the point you pick. So I'll just use the y-intercept, which is 0, 2 there. And let's just plug 0 and 2 into the equation for x1 and y1. So 0 is x1 and 2 is y1. And so I've plugged in 0 for x1 here, and a 2 for y1. And I've plugged in 5 over 7 for m. And then I've simplified just a little bit, got rid of these brackets here. It's just y minus 2. 5 over 7, we still have an x minus 0, x minus 0. So this is in slope point form right here. So if that's what the question was asking, you're finished here. They could simplify this potentially to just getting rid of that 0 and writing it as 5 over 7 times x. They could ask another question where they ask you to change that form into slope vertex form. And typically I like to just deal with slope vertex form in the end anyway, so I'm used to just changing it to that form. So this is what we had in the previous slide. Let's change this to slope vertex form. So what's the main thing we need there? We need y by itself, and there won't be any brackets anywhere in the question. So first part is easy, getting rid of the brackets since we just have a 0 there. So y minus 2 stayed the same, and we have 5 over 7 times x. And then just one final step. Let's move that 2 to the other side because we want y by itself for it to be slope vertex form. And so y equals 5 over 7x plus 2. All we did here was basic algebra. We added a 2 to this left-hand side to get rid of that negative 2, but we have to do the same thing to the right-hand side to keep things balanced. So now we are complete in writing that in slope vertex form. What is the equation of this graph in slope point form? So again, write your slope point form. M is the slope, which is negative 8 divided by positive 2, which is just equal to negative 4. And there I have formed my triangle and figured out my rise of negative 8, run of positive 2. For x1 and y1, again, pick a known point on the line. I'm going to use the y-intercept. That's usually easiest to use, which is 0, negative 1, as indicated on the graph. So plug 0, negative 1 into the equation for x1 and y1. So I plugged in 0 for x1, so the 0 was where x1 was. And always, again, it's good convention to whenever you do a substitution in, a plugging in, do brackets where you plug it in. And y1 here is a negative 1. Negative 1, y1, we plugged in negative 1 for y1 here. And of course we plugged in negative 4 for our slope. And just a bit of simplifying, y plus 1 on the left hand side equals negative 4 and then x minus 0. And this is in slope point form now. Again, it is easiest to deal with slope vertex form typically, so let's change this into slope vertex form as practice. So simplifying the brackets away there, we just have that 0. That's one of the nice things about picking the y-intercept. The x1 value is always a 0. And then, of course, using basic algebra, let's move this 1 to the other side because we want y by itself and no brackets anywhere in the question to be in slope vertex form. graph the below equation. So it's given to us in slope point form. If you reverse the signs of the -5 and the -2 here to be +5 and +2, this will give you a point on the line. Remember, those were x1 and y1. So x1, y1 in this case are 2 and 5. So 2 and 5. So we know that's a point on the line. The slope, you can read directly, is 1/3. That's our m value there, is 1/3. The line can now easily be graphed. You have your starting point of 2, 5 right here. And from there, use your slope to start forming your line. Slope is 1/3, which is a rise over run of 1/3. Rise is +1, run is +3. And of course, from here, you can just complete your line. And that's the end of that lesson.